Okay, David, I wanted to know how did faith play a role in your entrepreneurial journey, if at all?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I've had a strong Christian faith for a long time. It's taken different forms, some of which have upset my family in the sense that like it hasn't been like followed any like particular doctrine or denomination sometimes. But if you look at it holistically, I think it's given me resilience in some areas. Like when you look at, I just, again, being a Christian, like Jesus' story and some of the apostles and others, the amount of risk that they personally had to take is far more than I ever did as an entrepreneur. I had 0% chance of being crucified by the authorities for my actions at any given point. And I think also there's an interesting parable about that basically talks about if you're trustworthy in the small things, you're trustworthy in the big things. I won't get into the whole parable about it, but I think that applies actually to entrepreneurship too. And I actually did take that forward with me in the earlier years, which is there is definitely a temptation and there's possibility to take shortcuts in a number of ways. And it could be that like, you steal code. It could be that like, you end up trying to take advantage of people or, try to slip something by them and like the contract language that later on, there's plenty of ways that you can kind of do that stuff. And what you find is that like generally speaking, the bills come due on those things because the only way to really scale a business is by getting people to want to enter into like, repeating relationships and transactions continuously. And everyone's got to feel good about it and want to talk about it and do all those things. If you try to do it in a way that like you got the best of somebody in a zero sum game kind of way, generally speaking, that's not going to keep scaling. That's why ultimately, have you ever come across like, a well-known identity theft organization operating out of some third world country? It's like, yeah, some of them are state sanctioned and, they're pretty large, but, when you're trying to do some of those operations, you're taking advantage of people and it's hard to get the like network effects to get everything going and do the same thing that, Twitter did or Google did in their adoption of their technology. It's really hard to do that above board. So I would say that that helped. And the more you do those things, and the more you prove to yourself that you stay on the right side of right, you build kind of like a sense of resiliency for like what you stand for. And I would say like to be good at entrepreneurship, there's some element of like you got to have the motivation to want to do it. And it has to be a calling. And a lot of people don't have that, and that's fine. There's no judgment. But you can't not do it, basically. That's kind of like the way I describe it to some people.
Right.
I
Only
have,
do it if you can't not do it.
yeah, exactly. Like I was like when I talk to people who are like, "Hey, I'm thinking about leaving my like cushy job to go be an entrepreneur. Like, do you think I should do it?" And I'm like, "You should be asking that question." So that's motivation. You have to have the competence. Like you have to be smart enough and you have to have the skills to go do it in whatever you pick to do. And I'd say the third thing that gets underestimated is the integrity. And I don't just mean it in terms of ethics, though I think faith definitely plays a role in that for me personally. It also means you have the integrity to like do the hard things and like stick to your guns on your thesis you had, like the idea that's novel in the world or whatever it is. Because most people will tell you you're wrong. And so there's an element of like, when to take feedback and modify your thinking, and when like to stick to your guns.
Yeah.
And I think like Christianity is a little bit of that as well. Because like, like capitalism and some of the like society we live in doesn't always align to Christian values. And so a lot of the times you got to make those calls day to day in terms of how you're going to react to the demands of the moment. There's a lot more like greed in capitalism. There's a lot more things that happen in the darkness that aren't brought into the light, to use like Johnny Cash language. So I think that's probably the role that it played.
Yeah. Yeah.